Okay. This meeting of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Ferguson?
Present.
Director Fons?
Present.
Director Herndon?
Present.
Director
Jackson.
O'Halloran?
Here.
Director Jackson?
Present.
Director Seamson?
Present.
Director Vanoy?
Present.
Director Reza?
I'm here.
And President Zombor.
Present.
9 members are present.
The chair will now ask the secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We acknowledge that Milwaukee lies on traditional Menominee, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk homeland along the southwest shores of Lake Michigan, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes. On this site, the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnick rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's Menominee, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, Oneida, and Mohican sovereign nations remain present to this day. At Milwaukee Public Schools, we proudly serve and uplift the brilliance, resilience, and potential of all Black children in our community. We recognize the historical and systemic challenges that impact their journeys, and we are committed to creating a nurturing and empowering environment that honors their identities, celebrates their culture, and provides equitable opportunities for success. The Milwaukee Board of Directors stands with our children, families, and community to build pathways for excellence, leadership, and lasting change. This meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Services Building. This meeting is also being broadcast on WYMS Radio 88.9 FM and via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience. And we're just pulling up the recording for the interpretation.
Introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta de la Mesa Directiva de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número. Nuevamente, para escuchar esta reunión en español, llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número.
Before we move to our agenda, the chair will ask that we share in a moment of silence to commemorate the passing of the following members of the MPS community. Peter Fortman, a staff member from Golda Meir. Patricia Kintop, a retired teacher from Morse Middle School. Rosemary Kropp, a retired school psychologist from Northwest Secondary. Luis Lopez, a retired student services employee. Willie Luster, a retired general education assistant from Custer High School, Frances Mazurek, a retired school secretary, Suzanne McKenzie, a retired school secretary from Engelberg School, Saul Reeves, a retired principal from James Grappy High School, Patricia Rojas, a retired teacher from Franklin School, Dion Sargent, a student from Douglas, John Stoller, a retired electrician, Lula Tate, a retired paraprofessional, Elizabeth Totsky, a retired school kitchen manager from Ronald Reagan High School, Tawanda Wardlaw, a retired building service helper, administration, Brianna Williams Keys, a student from Hamilton, and Carla Cree Moo, a student from South Division who passed in a tragic accident along with his mother and older brother. If we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Each month, the Milwaukee Board of School Directors accepts the public's input, both at the committees, meetings, and through correspondence submitted to the Office of Board Governance. At this regular monthly meeting of the board, however, in accordance with board rules, the board will not be accepting comment at tonight's meetings. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Order dictates that all comments, questions, or requests should be directed to the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. Please be respectful of the democratic process adhered to by the board. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone persisting in disrupting this process will be asked to leave or will be escorted from the meeting and will not be allowed to return. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. Also, no one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for a listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes page on the MPS website, choosing Online Agendas. Now let us begin. Madam Secretary, what is our first item of business?
The first item is action on the minutes of the July 2025 special and regular meetings of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors.
If there are no corrections, the minutes will be approved by consensus. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the superintendent?
Madam President, we have one communication from the superintendent. That is the monthly report with possible action of the superintendent of schools. This is an informational item. Although it was noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Will the superintendent please present the report?
President Zombor and members of the board, Brenda Caselli as superintendent. We had a really strong opening of schools, and I was pleased to hear from many staff as I went around and visited schools, and I continue to do my school visits throughout the year. And I think this has been one of our stronger openings in recent years. I think probably because our central office teams were in our schools, really providing incredible support, and I'm incredibly grateful to our central office team for going in and supporting our principals and our teachers, and most importantly, our students. At the same time, we are clear-eyed about the challenges that we face. Next month, I'll have a comprehensive quarterly report with additional data and full results from today's release of our test scores, so that you will be able to see those and ask questions. I do want to give you some key updates from this month, including a brief overview of our test results. On our finance update, our team continues to work with the Department of Public Instruction and our external auditor, as well as the Council of Great City Schools, on our financial reporting and our FY27 budget. We released our annual comprehensive financial report, otherwise known as the ACFR, for the 23-24 school year, and our external auditors completed their work for last year as well. So we're really, really proud of the team for doing that. And we are looking forward to completing our 24-25 financial report, and we will continue to work on our state-approved plan to have our MPS financial systems better aligned and the communication systems aligned with the state system so that we don't have these backlogs. I continue to stress that the issue has been with our systems and reporting, not the actual financial condition of the district or the balancing of our books. I want to thank Chief Aicha Salva and our finance team, State Superintendent Jill Underly, Deputy Superintendent Tom McCarthy, and the full DPI team, as well as our auditors, Baker Tilly, for their continued work and support. As for our lead update, we don't have a full lead update this month because the work is just ongoing and there's really nothing new to report other than the schools that we continue to work on toward the end of December. But I do want to give you a brief update on lead stabilization. As you know, we officially cleared our first 50 schools of lead risks earlier this month. This includes all schools that were built before 1950 and serve our elementary students. That was our first priority because of the greater risks to younger students and because of the higher prevalence of lead paint before 1950. And those schools had a lot more issues that needed to be addressed in those schools. This next group is of schools, nearly 50 of them with elementary age students were built between 1950 and 1978. So we started that work and we are now in about 16 schools and another 14 to begin later in September, and the remaining 19 later in the fall. These schools have just a few rooms and lesser walls and items to address than the first set of schools, which was much more significant. We had a successful day one, and I want to thank Governor Evers, Secretary Underly, State Senator Drake, board members, MTA leaders, many other elected officials, and partners for joining us. We had a strong media coverage. We also got to meet parents, families, students, and teachers and educators and school support staff and central office teams. It was just an incredible day. I was able to visit 5 schools, and it's now up to 15. So my goal is to get into all 156 by the end of the school year. I had the opportunity to tell the story of our progress through the community, through some of our engagement at a number of venues this month, including with Judge Derek Mosley at the Marquette University Law School. In addition to getting the word out about our work, we made connections with the College of Education that we hope will bear some fruit in terms of educator recruitment. I also visited Madison this month, where I joined the State School Administrators Annual Conference, attended the annual State of Education Address, the Teacher of the Year celebration at the Governor's Residence, and I had the chance to meet with State Assembly Education Committee Chairperson Joel Kitchens. Just this week, I joined the Milwaukee Press Club for a Newsmaker Luncheon. We've done print and radio and television, and we've also at the Newsmaker Press Club event, I was questioned by the Journal Sentinel as well as WPR, and I believe it was TMJ. And then I took questions as well from the audience. I also had the chance to visit Milwaukee High School of the Arts as we hosted an event marking World Suicide Prevention Day, and I want to thank Rabbi Levi Stein for his organizing the event and raising this important issue and working with our young people. Our Listen and Learn tour continues with office and department meetings throughout this month here at central offices and around the district, and a virtual Listen and Learn session October 1st, an online and an online feedback form that we've put out as well that is out in our schools and a QR code so that we can get the feedback. Also, you can give feedback at mpsmke.com/listen and learn. And so hoping to get as much feedback as we can so that we can give that feedback to all of you and summarize that. As I mentioned, state test scores were released today. These are the ones taken last school year. There was no universal change across all subjects, and the results were kind of mixed. While math scores increased slightly, English, science, and social studies did not see a significant change. As I have continued to stress, whether it's these scores or NAEP, NAEP, National Assessment of Educational Progress, these results are not what our students or community expect and what our students deserve. They reinforce the need that we have so much more yet to do, and that our new literacy plan is more important than ever. We will be using the calendar days and the change in our calendar days to train our teachers with an additional 40 hours of dedicated professional learning. We think that this will provide our teachers the kind of support and foundational literacy that they'll need in order to move the achievement of our students, and then have them have the ability to demonstrate that on these statewide assessments and on the national assessment. It will take, I think somewhere around 2 to 3 years to see real change that is significant, but I'm hopeful that we'll begin to see some signs of progress on these tests as students continue to take them this coming spring, and hopefully we'll begin to see some growth in our formative assessments that we give as well. At our quarterly update next month, we'll share more detail on that and on our enrollment, but I wanted to give you just a snapshot here in my superintendent report so that you understand the key performance indicators that we're looking at each week as we begin to assess the work that we're doing in the district as a team and supporting our schools and supporting our teachers. Our budgeted goal this year is about 66,000 students, 223. And on third Friday, we counted about 63,951 students, or about 97% of our goal. That's an unofficial total and based on requirements surrounding which students can be officially counted. And the final count may be lower than that, but that's the numbers that we have today. And our team continues to make phone calls. Our canvassers are out. And I know that our teachers and principals are working really hard to ensure that they're contacting our families and ensuring that they're attending and also enrolled in school. I want to thank all of our school social workers who really continue to take on the lead in their schools, and many others who have helped us find students who were otherwise unenrolled and got them enrolled. We'll continue to host more events and efforts to make sure that students come to school each and every day, and then we will begin to turn the corner pretty soon here and start looking at truancy and turning into the work around the district with notices to families around truancy. I also want to give a snapshot regarding on-time transportation. As you can see, we're nearing our goal, especially for the morning run. And we have improved our on-time percentage in the afternoon, but there is, of course, still more work to do. And we are hearing from some principals and teachers around, particularly in the PM with late buses, so we're going to be addressing that as well. So I want to make sure that people know that we've heard these concerns, and we are meeting with our transportation team and vendors and contractors to address these gaps. I know that our transportation team continues to work on accommodating last-minute changes for families that sometimes can change up our routing, and so the drivers have to get used to those new routes as they add new children into their routes for the school year. And we'll just continue to work on improving the service that we provide. I know board members had some questions at committee meeting earlier this month on employee engagement nutrition, and I have some details to share back. But I do want to highlight one item first. I had the honor of joining the team in recognizing 33 food service workers who had perfect attendance for 24-25. This is an incredible testament to their dedication of this team that is providing tens of thousands of meals each and every day. And, they just make such an incredible difference when they show up each and every day for our students. As I mentioned, I wanted to give an overview of wellness and nutrition in response to questions from earlier this month. As you may know, we participated in the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, which provides fresh fruits and vegetables to elementary students. Just more than 60 MPS schools are participating this year and were awarded $1.4 million in grant funds to support it. Here's a quick look at how we are reimbursed for both lunch and breakfast, with lunch at just under $5 and breakfast at just under $3. And this is a historical comparison at the number of breakfasts and lunches served in the first 9 days of September over the past 5 years. You can see it's fairly steady over the last 3 years, even with some declines in enrollment. We continue to work to get more production kitchens online, expanding to another 22 sites. Right now, we have 83 sites doing their own production and 73 sites getting prepackaged meals from 2 central kitchens. Again, we're adding 22 production sites for a total of 105. There will still be some sites that are too small to have production capacity, so we will prepare food at another site and ship it in a hot box so we can serve the food hot and avoid some of the complaints and concerns that we've heard. Speaking of hearing students, we heard students' complaints about food, and one immediate step we took was adding fresh salads this year. You can see that we're serving anywhere from between 50 and 200 a day at given high schools. You can see that the overall lunch servings as well. This next chart shows both the weekly and daily averages of salads across the high schools, and you can see we're serving as many as 250 salads per week at some of the larger high schools. I think it's going to take just a little bit more time for the uptake, and we'll just continue to work on ensuring that students know that nutritious, healthy foods are good for them and continue to improve our nutrition service options for our students. I want to thank you for your continued support as we make positive change for our students, as we remain focused on accelerating student achievement, operating more efficiently, and creating safe and healthy school environments. And this includes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Does the board wish to make comments or ask any questions? Director Simpson?
No comments or questions, just could the PowerPoint be attached to the agenda?
We will do that,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Director Jackson?
Just on, probably just a question, just dealing with the transportation. I'm just glad to see those numbers, but also has there been, or can we get feedback of where's the bus app? How successful has that been from the parents' lens? Is it something that they've been happy to finally have in their hands? Because I know that's something I've been talking about when I do certain visits in other areas about the app, at least to show a win on our side, how we're doing better.
Administration?
Yep, President Zombor, Director Jackson. I think I have our transportation director here who will speak to that. Thank you.
Mr. Fife-Eric?
Good afternoon, members of the board. David Fife-Eric, Director of Business and Transportation Services. I heard the comment was about the parent app. We're still hovering around 3,500 households. So the big challenge for us right now is getting participation. There are some, I think the beginning of the year hiccups relate to timing of sign up, and then if we end up shifting families, we do a lot of shifting from bus company A to bus company B when we're making these modifications to address late arrivals and changes of address. So for the most part, I think what we're trying to do in October specifically is do a mass push to try to get registration for the MPS parent portal, because what you cannot do is you can't just go to the App Store and download the app. You have to actually register as a parent portal member, and then from there you get unique access to go ahead and get that app for your household that's affiliated with you. So we've seen a minor push at the beginning of the year. I think the hard part is making sure that everybody in the schools is familiar with how to facilitate that parent portal registration process, because it has this unique grid and you got to do a specific number of steps in the school building before you can actually get to the unique link within the parent portal that gets the app.
Any follow-up? Yep, Director O'Halloran?
I also want to add that, like, some of us, I have a kid that takes the bus, and, like, I have Find My Kid basically on my phone. So, like, I've seen that post probably dozens of times about the app and how to go through the steps. And there may be people like me who I can just locate my kid using her phone, basically. I can find where she is and basically, you know, it's a backdoor way of finding where the bus is. So I also want to, if we're benchmarking that and using that as like a success metric, I also want to like build in that there are some people who will never download it, and it's not because they don't know how. It maybe is something that they don't need or want to go through. So I don't want to like make you feel bad. There may be some people who may never download it, is all I'm saying.
Thank you. And I noticed as a parent this year, I didn't have to change anything, and maybe it was because the route was probably the same route number, but are you able, if the route and bus company changes, do parents have to log in again and change it? Mine just miraculously worked, so I was pleasantly surprised. Mr. Pfeifferich?
President Zomber, members of the board, the information updates twice a week for changes. That is a reflection of our schedule for busing changes. So we change our bus schedules on Tuesdays and Fridays just to keep it consistent. So any changes to the app would follow that same mechanism. There are some hiccups related to if you happen to change your email, and if the email with the registration isn't the same email that you use right now. There's just little nuances that we have to kind of dig into. So we do indicate on the app itself, if you're not seeing what you expect to see, you can email this help@where'sthebus.com, and then it kind of triggers a communication protocol to us, and then we investigate and try to navigate the solution as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Do any other board members have comments or questions on the bus app or the superintendent's report? Director Simpson?
Not the bus app, but just transportation. Just wondering, maybe like in, I don't know, whatever you think is best, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you could just email the board that one chart that just showed the percentage of time buses are showing up in the morning and at the end of the day on time. If we could just get an update in a couple weeks, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Administration? Administration? Oh, yes, we're good. Sorry.
President Zombor, Director Simpson, I was just asking Paulette to make sure that that's in my soup report for next time, just that
Okay.
we have the data chart.
Fantastic. Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. I would be curious, at some point, if we can do a year-over-year comparison, knowing that we changed the starting times for Tier 1, and that wasn't necessarily popular with some constituents. It would be nice to, if there were data to show that we hear your frustrations, but it really did move the needle for that third tier getting to school on time. They're getting, if it's 30 more minutes of education every week because now they're buses or whatever metric, I would just be interested to see what the change was on that Tier 3 and Tier 2 making it to school on time, given that we changed that start time.
Good. Thank you. Is that something we can?
Director O'Halloran, members of the board, it'd take a little bit of time to accumulate the data because it's a lot of point data from the last couple of years, but I think that's manageable. And I think that would be a really good assessment of how far we've come, because we have seen that metric have a positive impact on our operations this year. I mean, it's hard to see in 2.5 weeks here, but we've felt the difference this year particularly. So thank you.
Director Ferguson?
Thank you, Superintendent, for your report. I have 2 questions that, one of them is not related to anything you reported on today, but it's something that you brought up several times. And since we've last met as a full board, we've lost a few other students to gun violence. And so I was wondering if you had anything that you wanted to say on that in particular. And then secondly, anything, I know you mentioned truancy. And so I'm really curious to see how we're doing in terms of retention for our students. And I know we're approaching that first month mark. So just to kind of get an idea of how we're doing in terms of retaining our students.
Administration?
President Zombor, Director Ferguson, thank you for that question. It is, yes, it's sad we did lose our first student to gun violence. And I am going to monitor those numbers again this year and keep track of that. And I know that we sent out support to the school community, as we do always, and to the family. I have met with the mayor's team, and he has a new director over neighborhood and youth engagement, and I can't remember the exact title right now. And I've met, I think it's Adam Purcell is his name. So I've met with him and hoping to be able to look at some new models for interrupting and working with the folks who are already on the ground interrupting. And so I've had a small conversation with Director Jackson and our leader and director of Black Student Malachievement. And so I'm hoping to be able to come with some further plans that we're going to do directly with the community. But I don't have those yet in place. As for truancy, we have had meetings on and off with the DA's office around truancy. There used to be a program called TABS, I think. People have shared that with me, that might be something to bring back. So I'm having some conversations with them around that. I don't know the efficacy of that program or why that program was discontinued, but I do want to look into it because people seem to think that maybe worked. And then we continue to work with MPD as well, on any kind of initiatives that they have around youth just in the neighborhood and that sort of thing, and how do we ensure that students are actually in school. And then, of course, we have our social workers who are calling and working with families on truancy, and we'll be sending out letters, like I said, soon. And I hope to work with MTA on some additional initiatives that they would like to discuss in the future. I'm not ready to talk about those yet, but MTA has some ideas that have worked in the past on truancy, and so we have in some early stage conversations around how we could partner.
All right, thank you. Any follow-up?
Sure. So I would love to work more closely with you, especially with the FACE committee as well, on those two items, truancy and gun violence, as far as how it relates to our students. I'm very interested in learning more about your conversations with the new director of community wellness and safety. I think there's some opportunity there for us as a district maybe to interface with some of their efforts or to replicate some stuff that they might be doing to interrupt violence in our schools as well. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Chasen?
Thank you, Chair Zambor. Matt Chasen, OAE. Just to piggyback on what Director O'Halloran had mentioned, because the performance metric is pass-fail presently, on time, not on time, with respect to Tier 1. There may be improvements where buses under the previous tier were 15, 20 minutes late, so not on time, but now they're only late by 1 minute, 5 minutes. And to the degree that that information can be shared as well, that might be helpful. I don't know if that would be readily or easily available, but if it were, that might help tell a more complete story.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, are there any reports or communications from the Board Clerk, Chief Officer, Office of Board Governance?
Madam President, there are 5 communications from the Office of Board Governance. The first communication is the monthly report with possible action from the Board Clerk, Chief Officer. This is an informational item. Although it was noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the Office of Board Governance please present the report?
Dr. Owen Moore is absent from tonight's meeting, but she has submitted her monthly report, and I'm sure she'd welcome any conversation with board members that had questions.
Thank you, and we wish Dr. Owen Moore a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The next communication from the Office of Board Governance is the monthly report with possible action on legislative activities affecting MPS. This is an informational item. Although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Will the Office of Board Governance please present the report?
Madam President, members, Mr. Chris Thiel is here to give us the update.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel.
President Zambor, members of the board, Chris Thiel, Office of Governmental Relations. Just kind of in the attachments we have to this item that we included today, what we have is kind of the ongoing story of the underfunding of students in the state of Wisconsin. So last month, we provided to you, and it's still in the attachment, a document that showed the number of districts in the state that are on non-recurring referenda, and that will have to essentially go to referenda again just to keep up with funding. And we've got a new, let me see if we can point to it. A new item that we were able to get from the Legislative Fiscal Bureau, and you will be familiar with this from past discussions, if we can scroll down. And this is just providing you documentation, again, from the state's Legislative Fiscal Bureau about the fact that for 18 years now, if you are a child born in the state of Wisconsin, it will be an unfortunate fact and an embarrassing fact for the state that at no time between being born and turning into an adult at 18 years of age will the state have provided to you per pupil funding that has kept pace with inflation. Never. This state is underfunding and defunding in real dollar terms its students, and that continues to happen. So if you care to look up that document or print up that document, we know that this year we're going to receive, the state only allows, is how we should phrase this. The state only allows districts to bring in an additional, an adjusted $325 per pupil. But were we able to keep pace with inflation, districts across the state would instead be receiving $413.93. Next year, it's $428 instead of $325. So we're going to be a full $100 per pupil again behind where we should be. This is not a radical concept for a state to provide per pupil funding that keeps pace with inflation. And in fact, as we've discussed before, it was Republican Governor Tommy Thompson who put in the basic promise that the state will provide a sound basic education by at least providing this per pupil funding to keep pace with inflation. And just to give you a sense of what that means, had we kept pace with inflation, per pupil funding would be $3,571 higher today than it is. So the question keeps coming up, and it was asked again this week, will your district consider going to referendum? And if you are an administrator, as Dr. Caselius was asked that question, I think just yesterday, if you're an administrator in the state of Wisconsin in one of the 421 school districts, unfortunately right now you have to keep that possibility open. And people ask why. And the answer is because from a financial perspective, the state is holding our kids underwater year after year after year after year, now 18 years in a row. So I think as board members are communicating, as we all are communicating, and people are wondering, I think it's very easy to understand property taxes, right? People get that property tax bill, they want to know what's happening. I think the media can react to that subject. It's an easy to talk about item, property taxes. Very few people have heard of revenue limits, right? What is a revenue limit? They don't know what that is, but it's literally a limit. The state limits our ability to adequately fund our children. So I think the ask is, anytime a board member anywhere in the state or a superintendent anywhere in the state is asked, will you have to consider referendum? And it's always kind of seen as kind of a threat, right? The follow-up question needs to be to the state. Are you going to provide funding that at least keeps pace with inflation? So I think it's incumbent upon the people asking the question about referenda to ask our state legislators as well, if they have the opportunity, when will you be taking school districts out of this situation where you're defunding our kids year after year after year after year? So just wanted to provide that update and unfortunately mark, the time that now we will be in the 18th year of per pupil funding not keeping pace with inflation. So that's what we're allowed to bring in. And as we discussed last month, the state provided no state aid, right? So that's the question of where does the revenue come from? So we're not allowed to bring in enough to keep pace with inflation, and the state is not helping. So we unfortunately, again, just to kind of forecast, and when we meet with our friends at WASB or we're anywhere else in the state explaining this to people, those two things are happening. We're not being allowed to fund kids to keep pace with inflation, and the state is providing no additional aid to even get us there. So again, we're going to see some districts that may not even be able to go up to that $325 per pupil level. What we saw in terms of action at the state, it's an interesting time period. We've had the budget passed. which took up the majority of the effort. We've heard that I don't know, I hope my mic's on, sorry. We've heard that, the legislature may adjourn as soon as February. So this last month, we've seen a couple of press conferences, one from the Republican side of the House, one from the Democratic side of the House. We've seen a number of, some people might call them messaging bills, what are we going to work on for the rest of the time here. I think we might see some things that you can anticipate if they were to pass that the governor would veto. The Democrats actually introduced a bill. On average, we're going to see 7.4% levy increases across the state. The Democrats introduced a bill that would instead see a minus 0.6% levy increase. I don't think that bill is going to get a hearing, right? So, and where we are, we had another hearing yesterday where we're talking about, the discussion becomes school consolidation, and we may need to see some things that we traditionally see kind of at the tail end of the session. You will not be surprised if somebody brings something forward relative to MPS. We've had multiple kind of governance bills come up, or we just don't know, right? But I think that's all to just kind of forecast that we are in this period of time. There are a couple of pieces of legislation that I think people are taking seriously, hoping to see some progress on the ability to rehire retired teachers, which there's a prohibition on right now and would help not only MPS but all districts in terms of staffing. But just wanted to say that out loud in case you see anything show up in the news that's alarming, that we're kind of in that period of time. One of the other things that when we met last month, Director Jackson, you asked a question about a black swan event, the fact that we saw zero state aid and we've got these conditions coming from the federal level. And I agreed with you, and I still agree with you. And then as I reflected upon that a little bit, one of the things that I think that I didn't respond to immediately was at the federal level, some of this stuff has been forecast. So as you pointed out with the Black Swan event, things are coming our way that we could never have known about. And I think with the state aid piece, getting zero state aid, nobody expected that. But unfortunately, what we are seeing, and we discussed Project 2025, last year, I want to amend my response and say, as amazing as it is, some of the things that we are seeing, I guess, were forecast. And I'm just pointing out the fact that you may have seen the newspaper article this month about the state defunding programs for deaf and blind students, right? We are seeing threats across the country to districts for programs that are supporting our children that you couldn't imagine would be defunded, and yet they are. So you're kind of in the spirit of making sure we're informing people. I think we have to kind of believe what we see. And just wanted to amend my response there. But certainly that Black Swan event from state aid perspective, but then we know we have some of these things out there that we need to keep a close eye on. So that's my report for this evening. I'd be happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you. Do board members wish to make comments or ask questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thiel. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The next communication is item 3, action on a request to retire to closed session to confer with legal counsel with respect to pending or probable litigation matters. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session for this purpose.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the meeting. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The next communication is item 4, action on a request to retire to closed session to consider an agreement with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to use the property at 4950 North 24th Street for emergency purposes. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session for this purpose.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the meeting. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Board Governance?
The next communication is item 5, action on the appointment of the board's representative to CISA number 1. This item is being presented at the request of the current representative, Director Vanoy. The recommendation is that the board determine how it wishes to proceed.
Director Vanoy, do you have Any comments that you want to share about this item?
I would like to nominate Director Seamson to replace me on CISA 1 delegate.
Okay, so then the next, so I'll open it up if any members wish to serve or to nominate another member to serve. So it sounds like Vinoy nominates Director Seamson. Do I take other nominations now? That's typically what we do.
You could ask for other nominations. Otherwise, if there are no other nominations and there's no objections, then you could declare Director Seamson the representative by consensus, assuming Director Seamson accepts the nomination.
Director Seamson, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I accept the nomination.
Thank you. And then do other board members wish to make any nominations? Nominate themselves? Nope. Okay, well, then it sounds like by consensus, Director Seamson is the CISA 1 representative for the board.
So noted.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, are there any other are there any reports or communications from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency?
Madam President, we have 2 communications from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. The first is the monthly report with possible action on activities within the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. This is an informational item. Although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the report?
Thank you, Chair Zambor, Matt Chasen, OAE. That item is before you. Happy to answer any questions. I'll just briefly highlight, as was noticed by the superintendent, the completion of the FY24 financials for the annual comprehensive financial report. That update has also been noted in the CAP progress tracker, which was updated this afternoon and posted online. Additionally, the Audit Advisory Committee met again last week. They reviewed the audit findings from Baker Tilly. They will be providing an update through AFNP to the board next month. So that will be the first reporting out to the board from that body. And so we're excited to see that move forward. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do board members have comments or questions? Nope. Okay. Madam Secretary, what is the next communication from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency?
The next communication is action on a request to retire to closed session to consider performance goals relative to the employment of the Senior Director, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. The recommendation is that the board retire to closed session to consider this item.
If there are no objections, we will defer this item to the end of the meeting. Madam Secretary, what is our next item of business?
Madam President, the next item of business are the reports and updates from Milwaukee Board of School Directors. We have one report, a report on board travel. This is an informational report that was submitted by Director Jackson.
Director Jackson, would you like to share some highlights from your trip?
Absolutely. So I recently took a trip to Pittsburgh for a conference titled SBL, which means the State of Black Learning. A lot of takeaways from that event. I will say it was good to be in a room of like-minded individuals, a very diverse of individuals such as this board, whose focus was, what really can we do with intentionality, not just academia, but to get our students more engaged, dealing with the population with the most needs, which is our Black and brown students. So that was very great and insightful to be a part of. I know one thing I would touch on, because most think or say that my focus is just hyper vigilant on the boys, but also girls too. So one of the keynote speakers there was Monique Morris, who is the author of a book called Push Out, the decriminalization of black girls in public schools. So much information there, was able to take back, and of course some things I want to bring forth here. But to touch back with the boys, I put so much emphasis on our boys because, again, they're the most troubled. They're the most, once again, area where they have the most needs. So to get perspective, and I'm going to say a name, and you can look it up. We have a lot of Yummies in our school. So Yummy was a young man in Chicago who was killed at 11 years old. And we have a lot of these boys, these babies here throughout our schools too, who are very troubled and have nowhere to go, who are easily influenced. So my task is now, what do we do with this population of Yummies here in Milwaukee? Because it's not just a Chicago issue, it's really a nationwide issue. But they're getting younger and younger, and having, unfortunately, interactions with the streets, with the gun violence, things of that nature. So I'm now working backwards to do or to be more effective, because to really and to be impactful with systemic change doesn't start with an adult, it starts with the youth, so we can see the changes as they grow and measure that. So that was probably one of the heartfelt issues in addressing what can we do with our younger, the least vulnerable youth within our schools and just even in the community too, because it's not just based on academia. We have a whole wraparound approach and so many resources at our disposal, but I don't think we utilize them enough. So, just once again, what can we do to hone in on that area? In addition to, again, preparing our students to be successful from the cradle to career, building that pipeline of, where do we want to see them? My thoughts before, and I'm going to just put it out, was to build out a portfolio so we can monitor throughout their progress being in our system. But overall, the conference was great. I'm looking forward to be a speaker or presenter possibly next year. But it was good to be there. It really was.
Thank you. Do board members have comments or wish to ask questions? No? When just you talking, it made me think we should have like a board, like a little library in the back for books like that, so that we can share, like when we, come across a book that's education related that other board members can learn from. That might be something we could do.
Gotcha.
Great. Cool. Any other? Okay. Oh, Director Ferguson.
Just like listening to Director Jackson, it just made me think if maybe Dr. Cassellius is this issue. I can imagine that it's not something like that's just in Milwaukee. As he mentioned, this term yummies or yuppies.
Yeah, so Yummy, that's his street name. His real name was Robert Sanderfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm just curious to know if the Council of Great City Schools, if issues like this are on their radar at all.
Administration?
President Zambor, Director Ferguson, yes, they do have sessions for different identity groups and how to service and work, and we share best practices at the Council of Great City Schools. Mr. Boswell may be able to, I see him shaking his head when Director Jackson was speaking. Just anecdotally, I've been looking at the ages of our students who are getting involved in some of these incidents and losing their lives needlessly, and they are getting younger and younger. Truancy plays a part in that. Just knowing where your kids are is part of it. So I think that we need to make sure that we have these engagement activities for students after school, making sure that they have good and strong peer groups so that they're not easily influenced. But I don't know if Mr. Boswell, if you want to speak to, or if you have any data on it. If you don't, it's something we could start collecting.
Did you? Mr. Boswell?
Yep, Matthew Boswell, Senior Director of the Department of Student Services, President Zumber, members of the board, as Dr. Cassellius has spoken on, as well as many board members, we are seeing a trend. It is trending down in terms of the age of our students and some of the things they're involved in. So we are directly focused in the Department of Student Services, as well as with the administration, on building interventions that cater to our younger students. We are seeing an uptick, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. So just from a holistic report from the community as well as inside the educational spectrum, we have to have interventions for them inside of our educational system as well as when they go home and into the community. So we have begun to make those connections. We have begun to build different programs for our students while they're in school, during school hours, as well as make those connections in the community. So that is something that we are focused on. That is something that Dr. Cassellius and I have spoken about in terms of building strong alternative systems for our children, as well as for that young group of individuals that we see are trending up in terms of concerns. So that is something that we are laser focused on. That's something that we are building.
President Zambor, members, one of the other reasons I brought up grade configuration changes is to truly keep our elementary kids in an elementary setting so that they are not influenced by older students. And the unfortunate thing is our, students have phones, they have access to media, they have access to information that they shouldn't have access to at a much earlier age than they used to have access to those items. And so I think that it's really incumbent upon us to keep our elementary schools focused on young children, and then focus on our junior high and give them healthy youth supports that they need at their age and development and their curiosity that happens when you enter preteen ages and teenagers, and then have them have the academic programs that are engaging, they have the level of rigor that they need, and they have all of the opportunities to take career readiness, athletic classes, and get the supportive supports that they need from social workers, counselors, et cetera, and in those schools. So I'll continue to make my case for the reasons to address the issues of our young adolescent students so that they can be properly supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much for your report, Director Jackson. Madam Secretary, what is the next item of business?
The next item of business is action on the reports of the independent hearing officers of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors, student expulsions.
The chair will now entertain a motion to accept, modify, or reject the reports of the independent hearing officer of the dates and times listed in our agenda. Director O'Halloran.
I move we accept the reports of the independent hearing officers as attached.
You have a second? Director Reza seconds. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director O'Halloran to accept the reports of the independent hearing officers, Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Fons.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson. Aye. Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Reza.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And Director Zombor.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
We will now have the reports of the standing committees. Since public hearing was given at the committee meetings, the board, as is customary, will not be giving public hearing on these reports this evening. Madam Secretary, what is the first report?
The first report is that of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. The administration has requested that item 5, action on the award of exception to bid contracts, be set aside.
Do any board members wish to set any other items aside? Okay. Then, sorry.
The next report?
Okay, I got it.
The next report is that of the Committee on Legislation, Rules, and Policies. The report on Policy Review Project has been set aside as a procedural matter.
Do any board members wish any other items to be set aside? Okay, seeing none. Next report.
The next report is that of the Committee on Family and Community Engagement. No items of this report have been set aside.
Do any board members wish to set items from this report aside? Okay, next report.
The next report is that of the Committee on Student Achievement and School Innovation. Item 3, follow-up report with possible action on the MPS FY26 academic plan has been set aside at the request of Director Seamson.
Do board members wish any other items to be set aside? Okay, may I please have a motion to approve the balance of the committee's reports?
So moved.
Okay, and second? Seconded by Director O'Halloran. Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Ferguson to approve the balance of the committee's reports, Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Fons.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Reza.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And Director Seamson.
Aye.
And President Zombor.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the first item set aside?
The first item set aside is from the report of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel. Item 5, action on the award of exception to bid contracts, was set aside at the request of the administration. Your committee recommended that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as set forth in the attachments to the item to include the 2 transportation contracts and not to include the contract with Honest Game Corporation.
Does the administration have new information to present? No? Okay. Are there any, oh, I think they.
Oh, Baker Tilly?
So this is the exception to bid for the Honest Game Corporation that was set aside at the AFP committee. No? Oh, Director Herndon has a question.
Thank you very much. I was going to request that item 5 be pulled as well regarding the transportation contracts for Ever-Driven and Collaborative students.
So not the ones we pulled, because we didn't pull those in committee. We approved them in committee,
Right.
correct?
But
Ms.
The,
Koala?
the committee's recommendation was to approve the exception to bid contracts, including the 2 transportation contracts, but not to include the Honest Game Corporation.
Yes.
okay.
And then the item was set aside at the request of administration. It sounds like administration doesn't want to set this one aside, but they do.
They added something, Baker Tilly.
President Zambor, members, I'd like to continue to have it set aside, please, for the Honest
Okay.
Game.
Is there a different contract that we're trying to
Yes,
talk about?
yes.
Okay, let's,
They,
I don't know
Clarity.
if we need some clarity, but a contract with Baker Tilly has been
Yes.
uploaded since the committee meeting. So if that's a change to what the board is being asked to approve, perhaps the administration could provide
Yes.
some clarity about the addition of that contract.
okay, administration.
President Zambor, members, Brenda Caselli, Superintendent, we requested that this item be set aside to add one final contract for this month. As shown in the corresponding attachments for this item, we're requesting that the board's approval of the Baker Tilly contract. This is for our surge support for our FY25 audit. And I have with me Aicha Saba and to speak to the item.
Ms. Sava?
Good evening, President Zambor and fellow board members. Like Dr. Caselli has said, the contract for Baker Tilly, like I had previously mentioned last month, they are surge support. So when we completed our FY24 Act for an audit, then they were able to switch and provide that surge support. They couldn't start that before we officially issued the 24 audit. So that's why the contract was, the scope was set and the contract was signed or is about to be signed with your approval tonight. And so that's why we're bringing it forward at full board tonight.
Okay. Do members of the board have comments or questions? No. Director Jackson?
So this is something that you, just for my sake, we're still pulling that still on hold, or we voting on tonight?
President Zambor and Director Jackson, the Honest Games is still pulled.
Okay.
But we're asking for the Baker Tilly surge support to be replacing that item so that we could get that support in place.
Would someone like to make a motion to, you still have your question? Okay, Director Herndon, you can ask.
Thank you very much. I'm not asking for a major change, but better explanation of the terminology in the contract. I received at least a couple of calls about that, where it states that the contractor shall lease from MPS. So the question was, were the district leasing cars
Which
or
contract?
in this manner?
Collaborative student? I just want to be
Both of them were the same.
ever-driven and collaborative student. Okay.
Both are the same.
Okay.
So it's just for public information and clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Would administration be able to clarify about the lease questions on collaborative student and ever-driven contracts?
Director Herndon, President Zambor, members of the board, David Pfeiffer, Director of Business and Transportation Services. We have existing contracts with both Collaborative and Ever-Driven. We had to establish a new contract with each vendor for this pilot because when we basically prepaid the lease, we've prepaid all 60 months of the lease, the rates obviously have to go down. Since we're paying for the GPS, we're paying for the lease, we're paying for a good proportion of the fixed costs, we could not use the existing rate structures that we had in place with both Collaborative and EverDriven because they were higher than what we should be paying, given that we have the vehicles and so forth. So we decided to craft a contract specific for the pilot for both of those established vendors so that they effectively provide the labor and they use our vehicles. So they're providing the labor, there are vehicles. We have some other hardware that's on there like the GPS that allows us to monitor. We also have a maintenance agreement that is built into the lease, the prepaid lease that allows us to maintain. So of course, with all those components being added to effectively a prepay arrangement, we wanted to negotiate a lower rate. And that's why we brought this back to the board.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Just to say thank you very much for that information, and I hope that the listening audience understand that we actually lease the cars and then we're basically contracting the services in these particular instances for the reasons you explained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director O'Halloran.
I'd like to move approval of the item inclusive of the Baker Tilly contract, continuing to set aside the Honest Game Corporation contract.
Do we have a second? Director Reza seconds. Madam Secretary, could you read the motion one more time, just for clarity?
On the motion by Director O'Halloran to approve the recommended exception to bid contracts with the addition of Baker Tilly and with the exception of the Honest Game Corporation. Director Ferguson?
Aye.
Director Franz?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Jackson?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Reza?
Aye.
Director Seamson?
Aye.
Director Vanoy?
Aye.
And President Zombor.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next item set aside?
The next item set aside is from the report of the Committee on Legislation, Rules, and Policies, the report on Policy Review Project. The recommendation is that this report be held to the call of the chair.
What is the pleasure of the board with respect to this item? Director O'Halloran?
I recommend that we hold it to the call of the chair.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, the secretary will please call the roll.
We need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second.
I'll second.
Director Herndon seconds.
On the motion by Director O'Halloran to hold this item to the call of the chair, Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Franz.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Reza. Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And President Zombor.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next item set aside?
The next item set aside is from the report of the Committee on Student Achievement and School Innovation. Item 3, follow-up report with possible action on the MPS FY26 academic plan. Your committee reports having received this report, this was an informational item and no action is required. This item was set aside by Director Seamson.
Thank you. Director Seamson, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this item forward, or back to the committee, or back to the board this evening, just because I'm getting continued concern expressed by staff around the pacing guides and the inability to access things beyond sort of like a week in advance. So, staff finds that, I think, just really hard for, long-term planning, looking ahead a little bit to see what's coming. That was one of the concerns. And kind of like just along with that, just, there are new assessments, new PLCs, concerns about support and training. So I think there's just a lot of, anxiety about sort of what the roadmap is. I think, it's hard sometimes. There are a lot of moving parts, And a lot of this is new, we have new people directing the work. So I think that if there's any additional information you could share tonight, I think specifically around the pacing guides and maybe what the expectation can be for staff long-term. Is there, I don't know the roadmap for rolling that out, so if there's any additional information that could be provided this evening, I know staff would appreciate it.
Thank you. Administration?
President Zambor, Director Simpson, thank you for the continued clarity. Anytime that you have change, it is challenging, especially in a district that's this large. And so we are trying to endeavor within a large literacy plan and putting that out and making sure that teachers get what they need and getting it to them in ways that we believe they can consume it and do it in a way that is implemented well. And so I have with me Dr. Gabby Belli-Menace, who is our expert on literacy and literacy instruction, and particularly in the science of reading and Act 20 implementation, and Jennifer Howell, who is Chief Academic Officer, and they can answer your questions and address those of our teachers.
President Zambor, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe. To address the concerns that Director Simpson has brought up, I am going to speak to 4 of the items that you mentioned, and then I'm going to also have Dr. Belli-Menace show you an example of what teachers see and where they can find it and locate it, because that might also help you. And you as board members can also log on to these pages using your MPS Google ID. Okay. The first part, to address the pacing guides, what we did was the first professional development that we had in August, teachers were shown by grade band the activities that they were going to be doing for this first 4-week period. One of the reasons, which addresses another thing that you brought up, one of the reasons that we're going slower in how we're training teachers is because if you remember in the MGT audit, it talked about teachers saying that they were giving all these tools, but they didn't know how it connected to high quality instructional materials, either through Act 20 or through the letters training they were receiving. So we decided to step back a little bit and first build some culture for learning in an environment where it was conducive, building relationships with students. But we also decided to also walk teachers through like how the connections from science of reading fit into the high quality instructional materials adopted by the district. So we chose to go at a different pace. We chose to release things in a different way, the roadmap, the pacing guides as you spoke of before, which leads to the third point that you talked about is like, where are we going? We are releasing things more than 1 week in advance. When Dr. Belli-Menace shows you, you'll see the dates that are on there. We did add the dates later. We didn't have anything live at the first time, but after the questions and the concerns that we got from people saying, hey, I kind of want to work ahead, or I need to know when it's coming, we put the dates out there. Again, we are only giving them what they need to focus on in the here and now. There's assessments at the end of each module. We know we need to give those assessments so that we know where we're going with our students as we move forward. So the end of the unit assessments would happen at any time in the past pacing guides as well. And then finally, just to talk a little bit about how we are supporting teachers in this new way of learning. So we do have the professional development days that were given to us. We are using them to make connections. So we'll use October 8th as an example. Information went out today. It also was sent to the board on what people can expect by grade band, by specialty groups, and also just by looking at role-alike groups such as our psych, social works, and nursing. It talks about the types of professional development they will have. Understand that all of our professional development this year is around literacy. So we are making sure we make literacy connections to the content areas, but also to the specific work. So an example, a nurse may be tending to a student, maybe giving medication, or maybe just administering a Band-Aid or taking temperature. There could be a conversation about, well, what are you learning today? Oh, I read this good book. So we're trying to help people understand that all means all, everyone can teach in all the different communications. So we do understand that teachers are embarking on PLCs. We've done PLCs before. How we're doing them is a little bit different, but they have staff that are walking them through that as well. And then also this new way of just looking at professional development in a way that's going to equip them to make sure they have time to meet with students, to work in small groups, to have individual time, focuses on writing and on the reading. We wanted to make sure that we are showing people those things. So again, like on October 8th, we're going to do some unpacking of what Module 2 is going to be. So I'm going to let Dr. Belli-Menace show you what teachers have available to them and how it looks in our MConnect system. Dr. Bell Jimenez.
Director Simpson, members of the board, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I am delighted to be able to share with you where the resources are, but I just wanted to add one more important nugget to that might be able to clarify the pacing. Grain size for adults, for children, I would argue for all human beings, matters when we're learning to do something new. The way in which we're attending, to literacy development this year is significantly different than the way in which we have attended to literacy in the past. This is the first time in the recorded time that I have been able to dig out within our historical records, in which we are engaging in integrating reading and writing instruction, because that is what the human brain needs to be able to develop reading and writing skills. And that requires time. That requires for adults, for staff to be able to think about reading and writing as skills that benefit each other. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. At the same time, it is the first time that we're attending to the explicit teaching of word recognition and word study on the daily. It will not serve us well if we release 10 weeks, 12 weeks at a time. What is most critical is that we are working on microcycles where we are building fluency in relationship to the way in which these things are working. Engaging in a pacing at the appropriate grain size is of critical importance for us, because it allows us to build not only fluency, but mastery of some skills and some different ways of doing this work. As grown-ups, we're engaging in some unlearning and relearning, not only of what we believe about how reading happens, how writing happens, but how is it that these things are connected to each other. So, the way in which historically our team members have found our instructional guides has been through the mConnect. So I am currently connected on mConnect. So if you go to the tab of the resource or of mConnect and you type here reading or writing, I typed reading, for example, our team members know to go and look for the appropriate grade level bands. And if you click here, you land in the instructional guidance, so you can see the matrix for absolutely every grade level. I am going to go into third grade because I like third grade. And because the architecture of all of the guides is exactly the same. So the guides are providing an opportunity for us to lever resources that the teams already know and have, because we're using HMH, the curriculum that we have had prior to now. But we deconstructed and reconstructed to be able to make sense of this very important connection. We also engaged in using Google Docs because the technology allowed us to organize it almost as if it was a book. When we released the guides, in the beginning of the school year, many of the initial emails that we received were consequential to the confusion of not being able to understand how Google Docs work. So people were looking at it like this, and they were missing that we have all of these other resources that were connected on it. So in order to be able to support at the technical level and to be able to explain the architecture of the instructional guides, we have included video link guides that are guided tours. So for every grade level, team members are able to take a guided tour when they can hear from me. Some of them are about 9 minutes, some of them are about 11 minutes, but we go through all of the tabs and we explain the intentionality of all of it. Would you like me to walk through the tabs to understand the architecture of them?
I mean, I'm okay not going through all of it.
Okay.
I know we have a big agenda. I mean, if there's anyone on the board who wants to, but I do appreciate, this is very helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
I guess the other question, or
It's
The
okay,
oth-
Director Seams, you can
I'm
ask a
sorry,
follow-up and then we'll
ju-
open up
Yeah,
to other
just
board
one more and
members.
then,
Yep.
okay. So for this level of, detail, is this available for, I guess, which grades?
Administration?
Director Mims, members of the board, we have instructional guides for every grade level. So I am going to show you here, for example, an 8th grade. Hold, please. We have, the architecture is exactly the same. So you can see the standards, you can see what are the texts. We have the pacing guide, because once again, this integration of reading and writing is something that is new. So staff does not have to make the decisions as to how easy that the reading and the writing are coming together in the same way, because we went through really important and deep work in understanding and selecting from the curricula what were the texts that met the Lexile level for Common Core, as well as meeting the qualitative, rigorous expected for the grade level. We use Achieve the Core guides for that. And we also were looking for texts that answer the essential question, because at the end of the day, we're asking the students to engage in the very difficult work of reading and writing. We want that learning to be absolutely connected to something that is fundamentally important, like an essential question. So we are also working on and delivered, you can see it right here, in operationalizing what is the pedagogy and the philosophy in relationship to the reading practice. So we have like a 3-read protocol, and we explain it here. Because explaining the strategy is not enough, we also went for each of the texts that have been selected, and we unpack the text here, and we say, like, if each text is rigorous enough, it's worth 3 different ways of engaging with it. There are 3 reads, so we explain what each of the reads are. For writing, also we explain what is our strategy and how is it that is connected to the reading. And then we spell out each of the lessons, so that is a middle school. And for 9th and 10th grade, because we are benefiting from the resources that are currently available, and because the resources are already integrated, the guidance that is already linked is for the first semester. So you can see here how we're providing an opportunity for team members to remember the learning that we did in the beginning of the school year, so they can access the resources. We have the semester at a glance by standards, and we are spelling out each of the units. So for 9th and 10th grade, we have it. And for 11th and 12th grade, I went too far, we have the first 7 weeks of instruction. We are on route of opening a formal RFP for grades 11th and 12th, but the first 7 weeks of instruction are already here and available. Similarly, then for 9th and 10th grade, there is a pathway for team members to be able to access the resources. I like images so staff can follow along. This is the full guide. And this is how to find each of the resources within the guide. So from K through 12, to answer the question.
Thank you. And, I want to thank staff who has reached out, to express their concerns as we navigate kind of this school year, trying to do things differently. And, I just want to encourage everybody to continue asking questions and sending concerns, because I think, there's a learning curve for everything, and I think everybody's kind of in that mode right now. So I think the more we can talk about it and see what's happening and have questions answered, is the best way to, create that buy-in and get people, kind of centered and focused on the work ahead of them too, because it's not easy for anybody. So thank you.
President Zombor, Director Simpson, Jennifer Masao, Chief Academic Officer. Teachers also have been reaching out to us, and sometimes what we've done is we've gone out to the school to be in the classrooms with them, to sit down and start planning with them as well. The other people that we are supporting are our school leaders, because they too need, they've been getting information, beforehand, but they also have to make sure they're doing it for, all the grades in their building. So we have sent them separate emails on different strategies, different ways they can enter classrooms. We are going to be starting our walkthrough tool soon, which will also guide the leaders into what they're looking for when they're in classrooms. And so if anyone needs any support, they definitely can, give a call to their specialists, as well as send an email to any of us, and we'll be definitely able and available to help.
Director Fons?
Yeah, I'm wondering how essential you think that literacy coaches are to this process.
Administration?
Could you elaborate a little bit on the question? I just want to be sure that I. Oh, how essential are coaches?
Literacy coach.
Literacy coaches that are centrally housed?
Director
Wherever.
Oh, having a coach is of fundamental importance, because we are all on a journey to be able to engage in supporting staff. So I would say they are of critical importance.
So we've seen the numbers going down for literacy coaches in support of staff, and we're hearing about that a lot. And there was announcements today for another literacy coach to be reassigned to another school. So if this is the most essential part of our new push in literacy, I don't understand why we're taking people away from those roles. And we're hearing a lot from those people that they don't see the support in the classroom for this kind of different approach.
Administration?
President Zambor, Director Fons, you are right. We are in a really tough position with some of our vacancies. Fortunately, we have hired our new chief of HR, and it is his top priority to have a permanent teacher in every single one of our classrooms. We are in a really difficult situation of two really important choices: to have our literacy coaches there supporting teachers who need help. And we do have a team still in central office supporting when we do get calls and when teachers do need additional support. So we do have people who can still go out in those cases. However, we have had to have a need to continue to keep our central office workers out into the classroom where we had vacancies. I can tell you I've heard from a number of teachers who have been so appreciative of the high-quality teachers and master teachers who were centrally deployed who are now in classrooms. We have had a good start because these students have permanent teachers in their classrooms right now, and we're not disrupting them. If we didn't keep them, what we would have is all of these individuals would come back to their jobs at central office, and we would be putting paraprofessionals in classrooms who are unprepared right now and unlicensed. That is not that's not an option that I think is viable. I don't think that's an option that teachers who are in the classrooms right now next to them are wanting, because it would be extremely disruptive. So I do believe that we will be able, we had a hiring fair just the other day. We were able to get 7 new teachers this week. We are continuing to push, and as we are able to get these teachers in the classroom, we will release them back to their regular roles. But I've made the decision to support having a permanent, caring, and very competent teacher working in these classrooms with our kiddos.
Any follow-up?
I mean, we've had these conversations before about who is going to be in the classroom. And if it's a literacy coach in a 3rd grade classroom, again, the analogy of sending a plumber to do a carpenter's job is apt. I think we're going to lose those people. I think they feel that their worth is not being valued. And I've heard that from numerous teachers, that they're not going to stay around because that kind of reallocation doesn't seem to be an efficient use of their talents, people who have been here for 10, 15, 20 years. So I'm wary of that approach.
Okay. Any other questions? questions? Director Benoit?
I have a comment just to counter. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you're putting children first, and that I personally think that having professionals in the classroom is a priority, and that our kids deserve to have licensed teachers before anything else. So I appreciate that strategy, and I think it's the best use of our resources.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much for the update. And that was the only, Director Steamson, that was the only question you had on that particular item that was pulled. Okay. Then, Madam Secretary, are there any other items of regular business?
Madam President, there are 2 items of regular business. The first is the report of the board's delegates.
We have no formal report submitted for this item. Are there any delegates who wish to give a report? Director O'Halloran?
I can just give a verbal update that the MPS Foundation, well, this has not been presented as a formal item in the past, but just to keep the board well informed, the MPS Foundation board will be meeting in October for the quarterly meeting, and we are really excited. I don't know if I'm stealing anybody's thunder, but we will be unveiling one of the green playgrounds that the foundation helped fund. That is one of the priorities for the foundation, and so I think everybody should have received an invite, and it's really exciting to see the progress, not just for our students who are in those schools, but they really transform a whole neighborhood. It goes back to that feeling, I've said it more than once, that, you know, our public schools are the heart of our community, and so it's an asset not just for the students and staff, but everybody gets to benefit when we have those refreshes. So I can put together a formal report for the future, just so the public and the board are well informed about what the foundation is up to.
Thank you. Any other reports or updates from delegates? Director Jackson?
Yeah. So I haven't been formally sworn in yet for the Milwaukee Public Library Board, but last conversation was to put together planning trips to the library specifically for the Green Book. So the Green Book, for those who know, African Americans use this book to travel to the South, to avoid sundown towns and to avoid just discrimination in itself. So for our students to know what it was or what it felt like back then to truly navigate that space, to make sure that they were safe to visit family and to visit friends, would be something that they were looking and excited to put together, so that our schools and our children can have some literature to look at and to navigate to see what the travels were like for back then.
Thank you. Any other reports from delegates? Okay, Madam Secretary, what is the next item of regular business?
The next item of regular business is the monthly report of the President of the Milwaukee Board of School Directors.
Okay, the report is before you. I won't go through everything. Was really excited to join the announcement event at outside McNair Elementary. I think it's great that we have the opportunity to put one of our underutilized buildings back to work for the community. And that there was a really good Journal Sentinel article that outlines the disaster recovery centers when they're going to be open. So the McNair Elementary School, and then there's one in Wauwatosa City Hall. Those are open through the week. The article has the times. People don't have to go to one of those sites to get assistance, but they can. They can go there for appeals. They can bring receipts, any documentation that they might need, and then they can get help from someone face to face. So I think really excited about that. And then there's just some other community engagement events in there. And then Mr. Chasen already touched on the audit committee. We're excited to bring some recommendations to the board in October. Okay, with that, Madam Secretary, is there any unfinished business before the board?
We have no unfinished business.
Okay. Is there any new business?
We have no new business.
Are there any communications for referral to committee?
We have no communications or petitions for referral, Madam President.
Okay, and resolutions?
Madam President, we have no resolutions.
Okay, what is the next item on our agenda?
Madam President, we're back to the items that were previously deferred.
Would you remind us of those items?
There were 2 items set aside from the board clerk. Action on a request to retire to closed session to confer with legal counsel with respect to pending or probable litigation matters, and action on a request to retire to closed session to consider an agreement with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to use the property at 4950 North 24th Street for emergency purposes. There was also 1 item from the Senior Director of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. That was action on a request to retire to closed session to consider performance goals relative to the employment of the Senior Director, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. All items were noticed for possible closed session.
Thank you. The chair will accept a motion to consider these items in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the board who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the board has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or collective bargaining purposes require a closed session. Does anyone so move? Director Jackson?
Yes, I move that we retire to closed session for the various items that you just described.
Do you have a second? Director Seamson?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. If there's no discussion on the motion, the secretary will please call the roll.
On the motion by Director Jackson to retire to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, Parent C, and Parent E for the purposes previously read into the record. Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Fonz.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Reza.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And President Zombor.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes, the motion passes.
The board will now retire to closed session to discuss the items read by our secretary. The board may return to open session to take action on items discussed in closed session. Otherwise, the board will adjourn from closed session. Madam Secretary, please note the time.
So noted.
Milwaukee Board of School Directors is back in open session. The board has been in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, Parent 1, Parent G, Parent C, and Parent E. On the question of a memorandum of understanding with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, what is the pleasure of the board? Director O'Halloran?
I move that we approve the superintendent to enter into negotiations on behalf of the board with FEMA and the county as required for this.
Okay, do you have a second? Director Ferguson, seconds. Okay, if there is no discussion, the secretary will please call the roll. I see you're still writing. Sorry.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to authorize the superintendent to negotiate a memorandum of understanding on behalf of the board with Milwaukee County and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Director Ferguson.
Aye.
Director Fonz. Director Fonz has left the meeting. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Reza.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Vanoy.
Aye.
And President Zomber.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, are there any other items of business on our agenda?
There are no other items of business, but it looks like Director O'Halloran wishes to be
Director
called
O'Halloran?
on.
We didn't actually congratulate all the people who are receiving promotions or are newly hired and thank them for bringing their talents to serve the students, staff, and community of Milwaukee Public Schools. Thank you so much. Go forth and do great things.
Thank you. Okay, there being no further business before the board, this meeting is adjourned.